so your dreams, according to his methodology and his theory, are basically offering up the keys to your unconscious, where everything about you is held, all the good things and all the things that you struggle with. And so over the course of time that we were loving each other, but I was going, no, I can't do this. He was talking with me about my dreams. He wasn't analyzing me because he can't, but we would have just these amazingly deep conversations about dreams. And he shared his, I shared mine. And I learned so much about myself. And I learned how precious love is and how precious being able to express your feelings openly to another is, and how little in the big picture the judgment of others means. And I still know that I'm being judged. I mean, most people think there's no way I could have loved this man, that I must have married him for his money, which is so not true. He didn't have enough for me to invest that much energy. So
Right.
it just wasn't about that. I mean, it just was way too much trouble, this relationship. It's a lot of hard work. And I only came at it because of love. And, at this point, when there are people judging me, it just goes over my head. It just goes over my head. But it is so much like you say, we all think that at some point we're going to grow out of that's part of maturing. But there are triggers, that just bring us back to what we were doing when we were teenagers or 5 years old. And, some of that judgment felt a lot like what happens in the high school classroom when, you're trying to be friends with those 6 other girls that, are snarky.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think our own judgment, like the judgment from, like you said, peers and stuff, and it's going to happen, like it doesn't matter because people just always want to have an opinion. That's okay.
Yeah.
But did you find that your self-judgment and your worry about the judgment was far less than what actual judgment you got thrown your way?
Oh, absolutely. I'm really glad that you brought that up because I struggled in such a weird way to eventually share how much I cared about this man and how old he was with some of my friends. I kept it a secret for a long, long time. And if I had a recorder, oh my gosh, I just would be the silliest thing. It would take me like 20 minutes to a half hour of explaining and re-explaining. And the person on the other end is thinking I'm going to have just like this major horrible thing. And they're like, that's it. That's all you got after all that build up.
Yeah. No one is as good at being judgmental of us as we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm better at insulting myself than anyone ever will be. So to worry about all that kind of stuff, yes, it does. When you zoom out and you look at it from the outside, it does seem kind of silly, but it can feel like, you're just putting on backpacks full of rocks, when you're in it. So I think that's really cool. I think it's important. I think it's important for people to hear also. And before we get into the second part of the question, I also just wanted to I know it's probably not a quick answer, but how are you able to get to a point where you can remember your dreams?
Ooh, so I like, first of all, that you said a backpack full of rocks, because that's really what most of us are carrying around in this lifetime, is this big bag of trash, a backpack full of rocks that we don't really have to be taking with us everywhere we go. And in my mind, and according to Bernard's work, that bag of trash is just the trauma that's been put on us over time. So getting to that trauma is done via your dreams. And it's really hard to remember your dreams when you're just, sort of starting out.